Welcome, welcome, welcome to Challa Law Wednesday weekly webinars. I want to say hello to all the people on YouTube. I want to thank all the people that have been joining us every week, and I want to welcome all the new folks. Today, we're going to be talking about numbers. How many visas have been processed in the US, overseas? How many pending EB-5s do we have? And how will that impact, how may that impact the visa bulletin? And maybe some interesting insights on interfiling. So let's give people a few minutes to join, and then we will get started. So I hope everyone's had a fruitful April week. Nobody got fooled on April Fool's Day, or maybe if you did, at least you had fun doing it. So let's go ahead and get started with the numbers. And I think you'll find these to be very interesting. And then we'll talk about the interrelationship between them. Remember, and if you haven't done this before, look at our webinar on YouTube about how the interworkings of the visa bulletin are. Specifically, how is it that the visas that are, or the immigrant visas that are issued in the U, or the immigrant petitions that are approved in the US, the immigrant visas that are issued abroad, how does that interplay with the visa bulletin and how they allocate numbers? It's really interesting. So you should check that out, because then this will make a lot more sense to you. So we only have numbers for January and February of this year. So for instance, we pulled, because a vast majority of our viewership is from India, but we've got numbers from other countries too. But I'm going to use that as an example because they're one of the largest. If you saw our webinar where we talked about cases that are I-140s that are pending, approved I-140s that are pending for visa bulletin, vast majority of them are from India. So that'll give you some sense of how the numbers are for other countries. If the main users of the I-140, EB2 and EB3 are from India. So let's look at January. The USCIS for EB2 processed or approved 28 EB2. In EB3, they approved 246. The dates for filing chart for January, where EB2 was July 8th, 2013, and India EB3 was July 22nd, 2012. So let's see how that progressed to February. So remember, 28 EB2 and 246 under EB3. So in February, EB2, they processed 17. And for EB3, they processed 95. And remember, February is when the USCIS said, hey guys, why don't you file under EB2? Well, let's look at the visa numbers. Dates for filing chart for February were EB2 jumped to, by a few months, to September 9th, 2013. And India EB3 stayed the same, January 22nd, 2012. At the same time, in February, the Mumbai consulate, which is the main consulate processing immigrant visas, although I think sometimes Delhi does too if they're over worked. So Mumbai in February for EB2 issued 26, and Mumbai for EB3 issued 44. Remember, the National Visa Center backlog is 453,797. And in 2018, in February February 18th, 2022, USCIS published that the overall employment-based limit for fiscal year 2020 is approximately twice as high as usual, due to the unused family-based visa numbers from fiscal year 2021. That's good news. That means that approximately 140,000 additional visas are available. And then the number of documentary complete IV applicants scheduled for April 2022 interview appointments are 32,439. So that's a lot compared to what they've processed just in 2022. So, substantial number of these are from 2021 and, during the pandemic period where processing was almost at a halt. And the numbers of immigrant applicants pending the schedule of an interview is 421,538. That's a lot. Now, we have been seeing that interview dates are being waived for those where there's no question about their application. And the approval is coming straight from the NBC, National Benefits Center. Now, let's take this. I should have had a whiteboard because then I could have written the numbers. I'll do that next. I got to practice, but I'll do that next time. Because then we look at fourth quarter. So in the fourth quarter, remember EB5 regional center applications were put on hold for most of 2021. So fourth quarter, there were 13,008 pending. Now, the data, they don't break it down by how much is regional center, how much is direct investment. But historically, there are substantial number of the EB5 applications have been for regional centers. Now that they're processing those, how will that impact the visa bulletin? Because remember, the per country allocation is for all employment-based levels. So that'll be really interesting. They only received 456 in the fourth quarter. The number of applications for permanent residence, the adjustment applications for fourth quarter were 292,080 for the fiscal year. There were 245,490 pending. And in the fourth quarter, they received almost 46,000 applications. Now, you take this, and then remember, pursuant to the bill President Biden signed, reauthorizing the EB5 program for regional centers, which also increased the threshold and now allows adjustment of status applications. There was some confusion when the legislation first was issued that would that be applied to pending applications. The way it's read, there's no restriction, at least within the legislation, that says, because typically if a particular provision is supposed to be effective for only new filings, they will say that clearly. If they don't say that clearly and it's ambiguous, they go back to congressional intent. We're looking at that, but I would say the way it's written, it would apply to even pending. So can the EB5 folks that are been waiting for this leverage, that ability to adjust status? Recently on the USCIS website, they said on March 15th, President Biden signed law that includes authority for EB5 investor regional center programs and various implementation effective dates for the program. The program will be in effect through September 30th, 2027, We are reviewing the legislation and will provide additional guidance. So, and that was in reference to the adjustment of status filing charts. So, do we have to wait for them to provide additional guidance? I don't know. I mean, the legislation was clear that it's effective immediately. And, you know, that's something that I found surprising and I don't truly understand. So I'm going to go back and see if I can find the congressional records and see if we can reach out to some of our folks that were instrumental in getting that legislation passed and see what Congress intended, because ultimately no agency can legislate. I mean, that's why we have the separation of powers. And so agencies fall under the executive branch. And congressional intent, you know, trumps sorry for the pun, but trumps everything over what the USCIS may or may not want to do. Now, the other thing now we're going to do is put all this data together. And what does that mean? Remember, I said that how many visas are processed affects the visa bulletin, right? So if the USCIS is processing more EB3s, it makes sense that EB3 didn't move because they're processing more of it. When they're processing less, the visa bulletin moves, more is allocated. That was per, you know, the previous director of the Department of State that oversaw Oppenheim. So that is part and parcel of how that works. Now with interfilings, what we've seen is where they're issued with an I-485J, if the interfiling is just issued alone with just a letter, you're not going to get a receipt notice. But if you file an interfiling with the I-485J, you will. But we've looked through our data. I mean, when I say we, Ashley Ferns looked through our data. And so I want to thank her for doing the deep dive into the numbers. And she says it's all over the place. We have, even looking at the time that it was filed and what has happened. Now, there could be a number of things that impacted that. You know, one of them could be like one of the earlier ones that was filed, it's already at the benefit center. The one that was filed a day after, there's no movement, no word. So it is, you know, not very clear as to what they're going to be doing. There is a large number, and I'm going to tell you this, that the ebb and flow between EB2 and EB3 are going to be continuing, because every time there is a movement in one category, you saw the number of people that downgraded, then EB3 kind of slowed down. Now you're seeing a lot of people trying to refile under EB2. So then EB2 is going to have that same effect. Sometime, I would say, if people continue to try to leverage that, sometime late fiscal year 2022. But if we look at this, I mean, there in January, it jumped to September 2013. I suspect that we don't have the numbers for March, and because they issued the request that everybody who can, you know, downgrade, I mean, interfile with EB2 do that in February. I don't think March will be affected that much. I think you'll still see a jump for EB2 in March. I think given the numbers, you may not see any movement in EB3. Incremental, maybe a couple of days, if any. You're not going to see as much of a jump from July to September because they processed over double. I would say, okay, almost 60% less in February. And I'm just approximating. I'm not very good with numbers. I've got other folks that are so much better with numbers than I am. I always say if I was good with math, I wouldn't have been a lawyer. So, if you look at that, it's not going to jump July, August, September by 2 months, but it may jump by 4 weeks or 5 weeks for EB2. So you got to keep looking at this to see, and I'm just estimating. This is just my estimate based on what I've been told is how they allocate. I still feel like with Visa Bulletin, it's like, if any of you watched The Wizard of Oz, they'd say, oh, the great wizard. And there's a man that is behind there, and he's just, and that's how I feel it is. I mean, I don't think it's as much of a science as they make it out to be. I think some of it is just, hey, why don't we bump this a little bit this month? I mean, so we'll have to see. So it is April. I'm sorry. We don't have the May numbers, but it's April 6th. So by next week, we may have the numbers may be published by next week. If not on Wednesday, probably Thursday or Friday. So we'll wait and see. As always, we take questions at the, please place the questions on the Q&A, not on the chat. And this one was for one of our YouTube attendees who asked, should I downgrade? So I'm not going to tell you if you should or shouldn't. Should I upgrade? There's some that have thought instead of doing an interfiling, filing a new adjustment. We're actually monitoring all of that. Ashley and I find it fascinating that, what the interplay is. So we'll both be conferring and looking at this and try to provide you any insight. So I really want to this week give a shout out to her for all the work she did in researching this, and did it with so much excitement, which is great. So if my moderator is ready, Shaker Challa.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here. So let's begin.
And we've got to do a hard stop at 12 today.
All right, let's get on the question from.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, 12.
Okay.
Hard stop at what time?
Hard stop at 12.
1.
Oh, 1. Yes. See, I told you my math. Thank God I'm married to a man that's much better with numbers than I am.
I'm not sure about that, but thank you. Let's get on. The first questions from the chat. Anonymous attendee. I'm currently working for company A at IT as IT director level position based in Australia. If I join company B in US at director level, can company B apply for my green card under EB1C? What are the other conditions if company B can apply?
Okay, so EB1C, for those of you who don't know, is multinational manager and executive. So how does that work? It's not enough that you're a multinational manager. It has other criteria. Number one, you have to work for the foreign entity. Let me back up. You have to have 2 qualifying entities because it's a multinational transferee. So you're transferring from one of the multinational offices to the other. They have to have a qualifying relationship. So they have to be either parent subsidiary, affiliates, and affiliates is very specifically defined, or they have to, it can be a joint venture where, the company that's doing the sponsoring has the general control. Now, that's criteria 1. Criteria 2 is that the foreign national, the beneficiary, has worked for the overseas entity for at least 1 year out of a 3-year window. Doesn't have to be. So what does that mean? It means you take 3 years from today. any time within that 3-year period, that's the window. The 3 years is the window. They would have had to work for 1 year. And then finally, they have to have worked either in the role of manager, executive, or specialized knowledge to transfer to the US on an L1, and then, and even qualify for an EB1C. So it seems like since you're changing employers, you haven't met the requisite working 1 year abroad for company B. If you do that before coming in, then yes, they would be able to sponsor you for EB1C.
Okay, next question from Anusha Nallapati. Hello, Ms. Challa and team. My question is regarding US consulate drawbox in India. I heard starting April 4th, one can drop at any of the US consulate regardless of appointment and location. I haven't seen this on the US Hyderabad consulate website, so I wanted to check if you have heard anything. Thanks.
Well, we'll look into that. I haven't heard anything about progress into that either. So if you're not part of our Telegram group, please join that so that you can get updates. We'll post it on our YouTube channel, and that way you can avail yourself of the latest information that we obtain. And we're going to be posting some of these numbers on our Telegram group as well.
I just wanted to let viewers know that next week there is a conference or a webinar or whatever you want to call a meeting the U.S. Consulate of Hyderabad is hosting, and I'm registered for that. So one of us, and I'm sure all our staff also will be registered. So they will give all the updates, and we'll update you when they update us.
Perfect.
All right. What
And
happened to the chat?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Slideshow. Oh, there it is. So, as I was saying, if you are not part of our Telegram group, please join. We've got the QR code that we've all gotten accustomed to. I hate it when now I'm gotten used to it, but at first I used to hate it when restaurants would give me a QR code. You got to get on your phone, and then I like to look at the menu. Anyway, but here we are trying to provide you with the link, the easy way, so you don't have to type anything. Put your phone up, get the QR code, and then boom, you get the link to join our Telegram group. And then you can share that link with your friends. And I know somebody gave us a shout out last week that they have shared our links with all their friends that are in similar situations. I want to thank them personally for doing that. I really appreciate it. My entire team works really hard putting these weekly webinars together, updating YouTube. Lainey is not in today, but let's give Lainey a big shout out. I don't think she's on the webinar, but it's her birthday today. So happy birthday, Lainey. I know you're having a great time relaxing wherever you are. I don't want to say that I don't want to tell everybody your location on the webinar, but I hope you're having a great time. And we really want to thank Lainey for all the work she does in putting our marketing material together. So the way you can thank Lainey on her birthday is share some of our social media with some of your friends. I'm sure she would appreciate it. Like I said, she works really hard, and that would be a great way to say thank you, Lainey, for all your work. Because I know that she is always in contact with folks trying to get information from us to tell them and to help the community out as a whole. So great service. If you haven't registered, or you've got friends that you want to register for our weekly webinars, put up again the phone up to the QR code And there is a link. As you can see, we tell you things that you're not really going to get anywhere else. And we try to break it down so it's a clear explanation. It's not a pitch. You've never seen me come on here and pitch. I'm just giving you information. And I think there are very few, because I've looked at a number of other law firms and it's a pitch. They tell you what you can find on the USCIS website. They don't have resources that are researching and trying to give you critical information. So please have your friends join. And YouTube channel. Again, all you YouTubers out there that have joined, if you subscribe to our channel, you will get the latest updates, things that we are posting. And so again, put your phone up, boom, you get a link, you can subscribe, and we're putting up little videos that will walk you through some of the things like interfiling. Ashley and I are looking at the data points will be updated. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you've got friends that you think could use this information, because I've got my own family that will call me and say, oh, you know, I heard this. And I said, no, that's not right. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. And this is a great way in which you can get the latest information on interfilings. Should I downgrade? Should I upgrade? And best practices. So please do that. Again, if you can send it out to, last time I said 3, send it out to one friend. Each of you, if you send it out to one friend, our links, that would be great. And it's a great way to support all the hard effort that Lainey undertakes. So happy birthday, Lainey, again. And sorry, Shaker, you can go on to the, how do I stop share? Am I still sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to stop the share. Okay, there we go. Now we're back.
All right. I'm just taking the questions in the order in which they're coming, timestamp. So please bear with me, folks out there. Okay, next one is from Srini Rao. News from USCIS to AILA that Texas and Nebraska Service Center sees I-485 processing and transferring all documentary qualified I-485 applications to NBC. Do you have any insight on this?
I don't know what the question was. He says that
Say all the US from USCIS to AILA, the Texas and Nebraska service centers are stopped processing I-485 and transferring all documents, qualified documents of I-485 applications to NBC. Do you have any insight on this?
let me pull it up right now. I'm pulling up all the latest AILA. It's not listed on their website. And as an immigration attorney, we've got access to all their latest postings and it's not there. But if I see anything, I will put it in our Telegram group.
All right. Next one is from Sweet Seller from YouTube. You have heard about SRC, LIN, and NBC for 485 processing. Why does USCIS list Vermont and California centers? Why doesn't, I think it's as well. Do these centers process 485? Can you throw some light, please?
Yeah, no, well, the 4 centers at first used to be just jurisdictional. So they would process all cases that fall under the jurisdictions of those 4 centers. Then they changed it so that California and Vermont do most of the non-immigrant, and you have Texas and Nebraska doing most of the immigrant processing.
The next question from Rashmi Mishra. She's all over the place. And what I mean by that, I'm sorry. It's on the Q&A and the chat. So let's take.
Thank you for qualifying.
Says, when we are expecting the date will be coming for I-485, those who have priority date January 21st, 2015 EB2. My employer is not ready to give I-140 document and I-485J document. What should I do?
Why is your employer not willing to give you an I-45J document? That doesn't make any sense to me.
You can answer that, Rashmi, in the chat. I can pick it up, or you can, send us an email, info@challalaw.com. I'll pick up if you're answering in the chart, but let me go to the next question. From the question QA box, this question is to check if I'm eligible to interfile. I have a priority date of November 2014 with EB2, and I filed a downgrade EB3 application in October 2020. In October 2021, I joined another employer and applied for 485J. With the employer change and both EB2 and EB3 applications sponsored by previous employer, can I still apply for interfiling to EB2 from my current employer?
Okay, so let's go back to priority date.
Priority date November 2014 with EB2, and filed a downgrade EB3 application in October 2020.
So
in 2021 October, I joined another employer, applied for 485J. With the employer changed and both EB2 and EB3 applications sponsored by previous employer, can I still apply for interfiling to EB2 from my current employer?
yeah, but if your current employer is not willing to give you 45J, when you file, well, interfilings can be for your current employer or your previous employer, as long as you have the present intent to work for that employer once your green card is approved, number one. Number two, if you don't have the present intent to work for that employer, then you can't interfile from your previous employer if you plan to work for your current employer, if you don't have the present intent. And, you would need, at some point, you're going to need to file the 45J if you've poured it. So.
All right. He's got a follow-up question. So extending my question on EB1C, can company B apply for green card after working for 1 year with them in USA?
You have to work 1 year overseas in order to qualify for EB1C.
Okay, Rashmi Mishra responded, my employer is saying when your date will be coming, we will provide I-485J, not now. That time it will be too late. Is that not correct?
No. Rush, can you email us at info@challalaw.com? There's a lot of variables in your question, so I think it's better through email versus through chat. So info@challalaw.com.
Thank you. This question from an AA. My wife is primary and I'm a derivative applicant. We applied for EB3 application in November 2020. I got RFE for 135 131/765 asking for passport photos. My wife did get an RFE for her 131, but we never received the RFE document. I did raise a service request that I did not receive RFE document. Should I just send her photos as well along with my RFE response?
No, because you can, but it may or may not get joined with the file. You can send it in. You probably got an email notification. Is that how you, I would imagine that's how you know about the RFE being issued for your wife. You don't know why the RFE was issued, but you can use that to send it in and alert them to the fact. And I would put, when you send it in, make sure you put the receipt number for the adjustment as a reference everywhere on the cover of your FedEx, on the cover letter, everywhere. And just say, we haven't received the RFE. Here's the email telling us that the RFE was issued. We haven't received the RFE. My spouse got, we know that we did not file pictures with the original filing. So I wanted to submit her pictures in case that's what the RFE requests. And you can try that.
Okay. This next question, well, I think the response, I did not get email, but see RFE from the USCIS website application status.
Well, then print that out. Wherever you've seen it, just print that out and send that along with the pictures. And just mentally prepare yourself that if they don't match it up, that you may have to submit 2 new pictures again when you get the RFE.
All right. Next question from another AA. If 485 is pending for 180 days and concurrent filed I-140 approved for less than 180 days, if one moves to a different employer, can 140 be revoked by old employer?
Again, but it doesn't affect you. There was I think it was when President Obama was in office, second term, I think it was the second term, maybe his first term. And I'm trying to think, it must have been 2007, because the 7 number stands out to me. So maybe in his first term. They clarified AC 21. Remember, AC 21 was the legislation that was issued under President Clinton. So one of the things that they clarified in the 2007, that once it's approved, even if the employer revokes, because your I-140 is approved and your 485 is pending for 180 days, and you are working for an employer with same or similar employment, and that could be yourself. You could be self-employed, but it's got to be same or similar employment. Then even if the employer revokes the I-140, it does not impact you. The only way that the I-140 can be nullified is if it was ascertained either through fraud or misrepresentation.
All right. This next question from YouTube. Pallav Sharma, sorry. I filed 485 in EB3 on November 2nd, 2020. We submitted medical report on February 16th to reply medical RFE. We have not received EAD yet. Should we interfile to EB2? Priority date is March 26, 2012.
I would wait and see, because look, they're processing less EB3. They're processing more EB3s, and that's why the numbers they made a request that people file if they're eligible for EB2. EB2 is still at September 9th, 2013. So if you've got a 2012 date, March 2012, did she say March? Yeah, March 2012 date. I would hang tight at least for another month or two and see how, because there's going to be people that are now downgrading, upgrading, if you will. to see how those numbers play out, because if it just moves a little bit, then it's got to move EB2's got to move a lot to reach March 2012.
All right. This next question is from a Q&A box. There's a news floating as follows. The AILA was recently contacted by USCIS with the following update. I think it's the same thing that was.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on our.
Based on fourth. Now, let me read it because there's a little change. As of February 17, 20, USCIS headquarters SCOP, SCOP has directed the NBC Nebraska Service Center in Texas to cease adjudication of all EB Form I-145 cases, other than those based on fourth preference petitions, religious workers, special immigrant, juveniles, etc. USCIS is reallocating all other EB5 based I-485 forms. So that's, I guess, somebody wants some opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm checking. Okay, go ahead and ask the next question.
That's it.
Okay, great. The question about whether everything's going to the benefit center, I'm going to take a look at that right now. And we'll post it on the Telegram group. So if you haven't joined our Telegram group, please do. It's Clarity Forhum, Forhum. I think if you search it, you can find it. But we'll post it on there. Thank you all. Again, thanks my team, our entire team for helping us put this together. Thank you, Shaker, for moderating. Again, let's all wish Lainey a happy birthday. And I look forward to talking to you next week. One of the topics we will be talking about is going to be, I didn't get picked for the H-1B dance. What's next? What can we do? And I will be broadcasting this from Chennai, India. So you will probably see me looking very different. I'm going to be in my in-laws' house. So I'll be looking a little more traditional than usual, but looking forward to giving you the latest insight, nevertheless. I think everyone will probably be asleep by then, right? Because the time difference.
Well, it's 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so it should be 9:30 in the evening there.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a comment from Peter Larson, our good old friend. Thank you, Peter, for appearing. He says, thank you. You always provide important information for those looking into immigration. I learn so much each time I can tune in. YouTube channel is great. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I was going to say thank you, Peter. And Peter is with Cobb Technologies.
Yes.
And he has like a valet service. He's here when our very important copiers come here. As any of you know that have seen petitions, they're about this big. And relying on them, making sure our scans are good, we have all the documentation is very critical for our business. Peter understands that. And every year he counsels us and helps us be better for all of you.
Yep, Peter, keep an eye on our office and the folks. Take care, man.